What About Vietnam? A podcast with Gary Newsom. The series where Curry talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. Today we take a deep dive into the seaside city of Nha Trang. And I'm doing that with the very talented and masterful Colm Hutchinson. And I say that because he really knows Nha Trang. He's lived there for the last 12 years. He's an Irishman. He met his wife there, and him and his two children have settled there and absolutely love it. Now, the reason why Colm adds an extra, level or depth to this is that he runs a very successful digital media company called Halo Digital Media. And in that role, he is putting together video photography, virtual tours for hotels, working with resorts, tourism organizations, and various brands. So it gives him some really great access and insights into just a plethora of places and things to do. When we originally decided to do this together, I said, maybe we could come up with 10 really good things about Nha Trang. I actually got 11, and we had a bit of a laugh about that. But he was able to really give some insights into the town where I visited 2014, but because so much has happened since 2014, I clearly really wasn't up to date with everything that Nha Trang has to offer. And in those 11 things, you're going to hear about, mud baths. You're going to hear about all the kind of nice day trips, island hopping, cable cars, stuff for kids, and just some really great things that I think if you're considering going to Nha Trang, this is really the episode for you. It's a very short aeroplane ride from Ho Chi Minh City. So, definitely put it up there. It has suffered greatly during COVID because it really is a tourism city. So, I really want you to enjoy it and get everything you can out of it. So please check out the transcript at the end of the show on the website, whataboutvietnam.com. And also I've got a lovely special offer that I've been able to put together at the Move and Pick Cam Ranh Resort. So you can check that out as well. But let's welcome Colm to the show. Colm, welcome to the What About Vietnam podcast. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, Carrie. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be on your show instead of listening to it.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I've been following it for a while and listened to some of your interesting guests you've had on. So it's nice to be involved. Thanks for having me.
I'll take that. Thanks very much. Look, we're going to be talking about a place which I visited back in about 2014. And we're talking about Nha Trang, where you herald from. And, you've been there, I understand, 12 years. And you run a digital media company. And I feel really good about you being on because I feel like you've had 12 years in the place. So you've seen, obviously, a lot of changes. And you kind of know the environment from what it was like before COVID. And here we are sitting coming out of COVID. You're also going to be across things. So for me and for everyone listening, I think this is going to give you a really good heads up as to, for want of a better word, the new Nha Trang or the Nha Trang in recovery and what it's going to look like into the future. And I asked Colm if he wouldn't mind doing, I know it sounds a bit chintzy in some ways, but like the top 10 things to do. Because, let's face it, we look at a place and we think, how long do we need to spend to enjoy that place? And, what are the really good top things that we should choose to do? Because you can sometimes waffle along and you actually miss the great places. So, Colm, now I haven't really asked this question of you. Are we going to start top to bottom, like the top best and then to the least, or are they just random?
I think pretty random from my side, because I don't really have a list to rate them according to how good or not. But I guess not even so much the top 10 things to do, but maybe the top 10 best things about Nha Trang from a Westerner who lives here and who sees a lot of tourists coming and going, and I guess who's seen the city and the region change a lot over the last 12 years that I've been here. So I guess the best thing that I enjoy or think about most often of living here is the weather. So obviously Vietnam has a nice climate in general, but not all destinations are created equally in terms of the seasons. So you have some places like in Hanoi where in the north it'll get very cold and you have definitely 4 seasons. And other places, say in Da Nang, where you get a lot of storms and a lot of inclement weather that's quite unpredictable. Whereas in Nha Trang, I think we're blessed with getting a lot of sunshine. They call it the city of 300 days of sunshine per year. I'm not sure if it's exactly 300, but we do seem to get a lot. And we have a very short rainy season, which generally only lasts for 1 or 2 months at the end of the year, from November to sometimes into January, or October to December, depending on the season. So all year round, we have very nice, balmy 30-degree temperatures, ranges between 28 to 35 degrees. This month, June, will be the hottest of the year, so it'll actually be quite hot. But because we're a seaside city, we get a nice breeze coming in off the sea, and we're protected by the mountains and the bay, so we don't really suffer from bad weather too much. So it's one of the things I like. I'm from Ireland myself, so we get a lot of rain back there. So it's definitely a nice change of scenery for me to get sunshine all the time.
And I like that because I think it gives people a wide berth of time, so they can pick pretty much any time of the year. And, Nha Trang is going to be optimal to visit. So that's good to know. Just
Definitely.
off the bat, I think that's a really good number one. All right. What do we got now as number 2, Colm?
Well, I think based on that, because we're a sunshine seaside city, Nha Trang is pretty famous for its beaches. So we have the main beach that runs all the way along the city. It's just called Nha Trang Beach, which is a mecca for all of the tourists who stay at any of the city hotels. And they can pop down to the beach to sunbathe, to swim in the water. And there's quite a lot of restaurants and dining and entertainment venues along the beach. Just outside the city, we have a very small beach called Hom Chom, which is where a lot of the expats would go because they can avoid the kind of touristy areas and they like to sit on that small beach. And there's also very good surfing there at certain times of the year. It wouldn't be as good as the surf, say, in Australia, but good enough for the enthusiasts over here. And then if you go just outside the city, either north or south, to the south, close to the airport, we have a beach called Long Beach, which, as the name suggests, is very, very long. And it's kind of a quiet hideaway beach full of very traditional wooden structured restaurants that serve up local seafood. It's a great place to go, on the weekends, just to chill out with your family, get some nice seafood. And it's got beautiful blue, crystal clear water that's very shallow. So it's a good place to bring the kids. And if you go further north, outside of the city, there's a beach called Yok Let, which is probably the nicest beach in this whole stretch of the province. It's around, I'd say, 60 kilometers outside Nha Trang, so it's definitely a day trip destination, but it's just an amazing looking beach. And there's a couple of small kind of homestay style resorts that you can stay there for one night. And waking up for the sunrise there is magical, absolutely gorgeous experience that I've done once or twice. Something I'd highly recommend as a day trip. So yeah, I think the beaches is definitely another key attraction to Nha Trang.
Can I just ask for people that are considering beaches as part of their holiday experience, do you get things like jellyfish or sharks or, like things like that I know people might be concerned about?
Certainly no sharks. I've never heard or seen of a shark attack or even sharks spotted in any of the waters. As for jellyfish, I've never encountered them on the main beach. You do sometimes get them on Long Beach and on the islands, but in very small quantities, and they're not particularly venomous or dangerous. Certainly none of the seriously dangerous jellyfish that you would encounter, say, in Australia, like the box jellyfish or the man-o'-wars. I've seen some small jellyfish, but I've never been stung. So it wouldn't be a big concern, and certainly no sharks or any dangerous fish or animals.
And something else I remember about the water is it's always a pretty good temperature. Like, sometimes in Australia, you can go into the ocean and it is freezing. So it's got to be really hot on the outside to make you want to dive in that water. But the water I found on the beaches in Nha Trang when I was there was kind of like a bath. It was like really temperate.
Definitely like a bath. Yeah, it's beautiful. Outside of the rainy season, like I said, which is October to say December or November to January, the water can be a little bit cold, but the rest of the year it's like a nice warm bath. Exactly. The main beach tends to be a little wavier. The waves tend to be a little bigger than some of the other outside beaches, but rarely is it so big that you can't swim there. There are no big, what do you call them, drags or pulls, riptides.
Rips,
There's not too many dangerous rips as well, so it's pretty safe.
And I think that's also good to add in because, people traveling with families, I think want to know that their kids can kind of wade out and it's beautiful, nice, soft sand. And it's just like a giant swimming pool. That's how I felt it was anyway.
Yeah, particularly Long Beach, or Bai, as the locals call it, has a very long stretch where the water is really shallow, so it's great for kids. And I guess then from the beaches, a lot of people love to do as day trips island hopping. So there's quite a few islands and islets just off Nha Trang. I guess the most famous being Vin Pearl, which is basically Vin Wonderland, which started as a kind of an amusement park, but is, I guess, since developed into a huge complex, almost like a Vietnamese version of Disneyland or Universal Studios. It's got multiple different types of accommodation, from Vin Pearl Condotel to Vin Pearl Luxury, lots of villas where people can stay. And then it's got a massive amusement park, zoo, oceanographic museum, lots of games and activities for the kids. It's got 3D dance shows, and the whole thing is kind of modeled on a European village, or a Disneyland style village, I guess you would say. So it's a place where you can go buy a ticket and take a beautiful cable car ride across the bay and then spend the whole day in Vin Pearl. Or some families will choose to book overnight or book a weekend there. I think a day trip is enough. But you can get a beautiful cable car over, and then all your entertainment is taken care of for the day. The second island is Hon Mun, which is where most people will go and do diving. Well, Nha Trang isn't, it's not like the Caribbean or Mauritius or one of those places to go diving and see that exceptionally beautiful waters and lots of marine life. It is known as a place where a lot of people like to come and learn how to dive, just kind of try diving, get their first taste of life underwater, and maybe do an open water course. There's definitely a lot of nice coral, a lot of eels, and lots of other wildlife, but nothing too spectacular, I'd say. But it is very, very popular for people to go take a diving trip when they get here.
Can I just ask on the diving? I know you have PADI divers there. I've had Jeremy Steen on the show. Yeah. And just one thing I wanted to check. When well, some islands I know, certainly the Cham Islands off Hoi An, there is certain times of the year that the water gets quite cloudy. Does that happen as well in Nha Trang?
Yes.
The waters?
I'm not a very experienced diver, but I do know that visibility tends to be lower during the rainy season.
Yeah, so that's around October, November, isn't it?
Exactly. But again, because we have a very short rainy season, the optimum time for clear water diving is much longer here in Nha Trang. It's probably around 9 or 10 months, whereas in Hoi An, I think the weather wouldn't be as good, so it might be you'd have less available time to go diving.
Yeah, and they just don't operate. They just shut down during those months. They just don't take you out because it's just not worth it. Yeah.
For sure. So there's that for diving. There's some other islands such as Orchid Island, which is, just an island with lots of nice plants and some animals that they have there, and some little places to chill out on a kind of coconut style beach, do some stand-up paddle boarding or canoeing. So a lot of families like to take a day trip out there. You travel just outside Nha Trang, maybe 20 minutes outside the city, and then there's a few companies that have these nice boats that they bring you over, and canoe-style speedboats, and they bring you over for the day, and you can just chill out there with the family. And it's a nice way. I mean, I like to bring my kids sometimes at the weekend, just the day to get out and get off the mainland and out into the city. So out from the city. If you go outside Nha Trang, though, further north, definitely as a day trip, this is towards Yoklet Beach, which is the very beautiful beach I told you about. On the way, you can visit the salt fields, which is kind of a nice stop. Something interesting, I guess a lot of people don't even think about where our salt comes from and our sea salt, but just outside Nha Trang, they have these beautiful salt fields where the locals will basically gather and store the salt before it's cleaned and shipped off to salt suppliers. It's a very nice place for photographers to go to because when the sun comes up and the workers are working, they tend to start very early in the morning, around 4 a.m. So just as the sunrise is coming up, you can get incredible photos of the sunrise over the salt fields with the workers in their traditional conical hats, and they're covered from head to toe to protect them from the sun. And it kind of creates those, I guess, iconic images you would see of Vietnam. And if you travel past the salt fields, maybe 20, 25 minutes, there's an island called Yip Sun, which I'll give you the name so you can put it on the screen. But it's unique in that it's got it's 2 islands, and it's got a sandbar that connects both islands. So at low tide, you can actually walk along the sea through the
So it looks like you're walking on water.
Pretty much, yeah. The water's only around 2 feet deep at low tide, and you can walk from one island to the next, but right in the center of the ocean, because it's probably a couple of kilometers off the mainland. So people love to go there just because it's unique and it makes for great Instagram photos. So it's a place I'd recommend for a day trip. And if you could fit in the salt fields and maybe even Yoklet Beach at the same time, it could be a nice overnight stay.
And Colm, would you've talked about getting to these places, if something's like 60 kilometres out or whatever. What is the best form of transport to do that, or how should people best arrange to do that? Do that with a fixed tour, or just get, a grab car or a taxi, or what's the best way?
At your hotel or resort. So there's a lot of, chain hotels and resorts, the big brands like the Intercons and the Sheratons and Novotels, and even the smaller hotels and resorts, they all will have a tour desk. And from the tour desk, you can usually arrange a trip to any of these places. And if you want something more custom, you can order a private car. So, there's a lot of private cars with a tour guide that will take you out for the day. They'll all speak good English, and the prices will be quite reasonable. And they will take you, say, if I want to go to the salt fields and to Yoklet Beach, you could rent the car for a day for, maybe $60, $70 or maybe $100 with the tour guide, and they will take you out. But generally, you can book all of this at the tour desk in your hotel, and they'll arrange it all for you, including your tickets and your transfers, and take you there at the best time of the day. So I'd probably recommend doing that if you're not too familiar with Vietnam.
And I think that's worth mentioning, if you've got like a small family, or, you've got people that have got some issues with mobility or things like that. So, it's just best to get ahead of the curve by organising that. And as you say, the area is so used to tourists, so English is pretty well spoken. We are sitting here post-COVID. And, whilst there's been lots of news about places shutting, so the places that we're talking about, you're speaking from a level that these places are now coming back on. In other words, these tours are starting to open up again. And because I want to make sure that timing-wise, we're just kind of keeping pace with just how Vietnam is opening and recovering.
It's tricky in the sense that Nha Trang, I guess more so than a lot of other cities in Vietnam, is predominantly a tourist destination. So it has been very badly affected by COVID, in the sense that when Vietnam closed its borders for over 2 years, we had no international tourists, and domestic tourism isn't enough to make up for the supply of hotels and tour guides and activities. So we definitely have suffered a lot. But in the last, I guess, 3 months since Vietnam opened, I can definitely see some life returning to the city. A lot of the hotels that I work with are starting their marketing programs again, and they're starting to welcome guests. We have international flights coming in this month from Korea and Singapore, and I think more flights are going to be starting to be added over the summer. And I can definitely see a lot of places that had been previously closed down, such as restaurants or shops, are all starting to, renovate and remodel. And I see new restaurants starting to spring up. And so while we haven't fully recovered, and the tourist area itself, which would have previously been very vibrant and active, is still quite, I guess you would say, not deserted, but quite lonely, it is all starting to kind of wake up again. So it's not going to be an immediate process, but it's definitely coming online relatively quickly. And the places that I've spoken about, such as, say, Vin Pearl Resort, that would be fully open. You can still do island tours and boat diving tours. You can still go to the salt fields and to Yoklet Beach. You can go to Yip Sun Island, I'm sure, as well, because domestic tourism has been quite strong in Vietnam over the last couple of years outside of the lockdown period. So it's...
And the good thing about a place like Nha Trang is natural beauty, like beaches and, islands and all the rest of it. They don't have an open for visitors sign on them. They exist whether visitors come to them or not, don't they? So, the water's still there, the coral's still there. Fortunately, the beauty is still there. Probably in some places, I feel like it's kind of had some nourishment and some replenishment. So, it's kind of come alive. Some of the forests and things like that have kind of reopened and that. So when you go to Nha Trang, sure, there mightn't be the crowds, but maybe that's perfect.
I would definitely agree. I mean, before COVID, one of the peeves of the locals and of the expats was over tourism and just, huge quantities of tourists visiting. So when you go to the beaches, they're very busy. When you go to the restaurants, it's difficult to get a seat. When you go to the cultural sites, it's just throngs of people there all the time. So, and then a lot of traffic in the city as well, from buses and taxis. So, one of the benefits, I guess, of COVID is that reset, which has definitely increased the quality of life of the expats and the locals who live here, because life is much quieter. So it's definitely a good time if you like a relaxed holiday and, prefer a quiet beach to a busy one, or, want to go see one of the temples or the pagodas in the morning and have a lot of space to move around. So, if you've got a young family or you're a couple looking for a relaxing week away, then it's definitely nice. So I'd actually take advantage of the next 6 to 9 months before it, full tourism returns to Nha Trang and to Vietnam.
I agree. Totally.
So, yeah. And Nha Trang has never been a true, like a very active destination where you go for adventure or, something truly energetic. It's always been a kind of beach getaway,
Chill.
relaxing, chill out place, So it's just a little bit more chill than before, which is fine for the people who enjoy that,
Yeah. All right. Now I'm doing, a count and check column so that, we're keeping into our 10, because I'm promising everybody 10 things to remember about Nha Trang. So I think I'm up to around about 5. You might have to check me back.
I'll take your word for it.
All right. Good on you. All right. So have we covered the islands, do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's a few more islands, but there's nothing particularly more interesting in one than the other. I think I've covered the main ones that I would suggest are nice to visit.
All right.
What's next? I guess the culture. There's some nice cultural sites that you can go to visit here. People like temples and Buddhist monasteries and things like that. So I think the first is the Ponagar temple. It's the Ponagar Pagoda, which was built around the 8th or 9th century by the Cham civilization, who were indigenous to the region around that time. And it's a beautiful kind of terracotta temples built on a hill overlooking the river. Ponagar was an ancient goddess that I think the goddess of Mother Earth, I believe she was known as. But it's a very interesting site with beautiful steps that lead up to these terracotta style temples, and lots of different religious insignias and carvings, actually from a variety of religions, not just from Buddhism, but also from Hinduism and other religions that were, that have come through Vietnam over the centuries. So a lot of people like to go there to see the Cham people do their dancing and to check out the temple.
It's very beautiful.
It's gorgeous, yeah, and it's particularly nice at nighttime, just as the sun is going down and the lights start coming up.
It's good that you mention this, because, and I guess you're mentioning it too, because, you're into, a digital media and things like that. So capturing some of your visits, on a camera at the right time of the day, it is worth taking into consideration. So, people, if you are looking at these tours and you're saying to your tour guide, like, when's a good time to go, when you want to get that nice sunset in the background behind the ruins, etc. If you're a photographer, that's worth considering.
Definitely. I think the same would apply to Long Song Pagoda, which is a Buddhist pagoda right in the city center. And that's famous because it has a giant standing statue of Buddha, whose head kind of sticks out above the trees and looks over the city. So you can see him from many different places within the city. And it's also got a sleeping Buddha, a very long sleeping Buddha, and a big Buddhist temple where the monks will perform their prayers and their different daily activities. So it's a really nice chilled out place to go in and just take in some nice Buddhist religious shrines and monuments. So a lot of people like to go to that. I'd recommend taking a Vespa tour to go and see those culture sites. So there's also a Nha Trang Vespa tour where you can basically get your own tour guide who's a driver for the day, and he or she will take you around the city on the back of a Vespa, so you don't have to drive amongst the slightly chaotic traffic. So you can kind of go around in safety, and they'll take you around to see all of these sites, to have some lunch and try some local food, and they'll give you some history about the area, particularly these Buddhist sites.
And I highly recommend the Vespa tours. I've done them myself. And, whilst I originally was terrified of the traffic, funnily enough, when I'm on the back of a Vespa with a Vietnamese driver, I feel safe because I know they know the traffic. And the Vespas are the model of the Vespa design doesn't make you feel like you've got, a 250cc motorbike under your bum. You've got,
sure.
It goes roughly at about 40 to 50 k's per hour at the most at its push, and it's very comfortable, and the drivers really know what they're doing. So for anyone who's thinking about this and going, oh, no, I wouldn't do anything on a scooter or whatever. No, I don't suggest you do anything yourself on a scooter, especially if you're a first-time visitor. But certainly if you want to do something like this with the Vespa drivers, I know they do have, they're quite scrutinised before they're given the licenses to do these kind of things because, they don't want it against their name that, somebody fell off or any entanglement. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And it's just a novel thing to do in safety of and seeing some interesting historical places.
I think it's quintessentially Vietnamese. When people think of
Yeah,
Vietnam, they think of the traffic
agree.
and the kind of all these bikes flowing around, like almost like a colony of ants. And it's kind of a good analogy because when you're in the middle of it, it does feel like a colony of ants, but yet everybody seems to know where they're going, and it all seems to flow the way it's supposed to. Even if there looks like there's no order, there's definitely some order within the chaos, and it's quite
Organized
fun.
chaos is how I've described it over the years. They kind of part like the sea, and they can move amongst each other, and they have their own signs to each other, and who has right of way or whatever. I've never been able to quite figure it out, but I don't care as long as they know what they're doing. I'm happy to go along with it.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed myself driving here for so many years is your peripheral vision really increases. Like my peripheral vision is so much better than it used to be. And it's just, there's just a certain intuition that people have when they're driving, and they know how to get around. But it's for a tourist, for someone who hasn't experienced it before, it's a little bit exhilarating. It's a little bit scary. It's quite fun. It's definitely something I'd recommend. And with the Vespateur riders, they're all, very careful. And so it's something I'd recommend just because it doesn't just give you an insight to, the biking culture of Vietnam, but it also gives you a local insight to find out how the locals get around and to find out some interesting things around the city. They'll also be able to point out a lot of other things in the city as you drive past, and just to give you that local insight that you may not get if you're stuck in a car.
Absolutely. And you might never do it again, but that doesn't matter. It means you can go home and you can get that photo and you can get it out and you can show people and say, that was me. So
definitely,
tick.
yeah. It's good for those Instagram moments, and make a little video to show your friends.
All right, what are we up to?
Nha Trang is also famous for its mud baths.
I was going to ask you about these, yes.
In the city, there are three mud baths just in the outskirts of the city. So, the mud baths are, as the name would suggest, baths full of mud. But the mud is, it's a special mud that comes from a certain area, and it's supposedly filled with many nutrients and different things that are supposed to be quite good for your skin. Minerals and calcites and various different things within the mud that's good for your skin and supposed to promote healing. But it's also just a fun and kind of interesting way to spend a day. So you go in and you buy a ticket, you change into your swimming clothes, and then they sit you in this bath, and these giant taps come on, and it fills up full of this gooey, slippery mud. So it's great fun for all the family, whether you're just a couple going for a nice day out or the kids want to go out and experience it. You stay maybe 20, 30 minutes in the mud, and then you can go into all of these different hot springs. So they have lots of pools, with some of them very hot, some of them very cold, with waterfalls. I think one of them even has quite a big water park there as well now. The I Resort, I believe it's called. They have the mud baths, hot and cold mineral springs with some restaurants and also a water park. So a great day to go and spend from morning to early afternoon. It's got all the right mix of activity and relaxation. You can even do like spa treatments if you want to have a mud bath spa treatment and get like a private area where you can have a private day with say, your fiance if you're on honeymoon. And the kids will love the water park and splashing about in the mud. So that's definitely something I'd recommend in Nha Trang, because you don't find it in many other places in Vietnam.
No, definitely not. I'm really keen to find out more about that. I might talk to you about that later.
There's 3 of them, so put that on your list. What else do I love about Nha Trang? I guess the food. Of course, we have to talk about the food.
We do indeed.
I mean, Vietnam is very trendy right now in general for its food across the world. Vietnamese cuisine is starting to become more popular. In Nha Trang, I think we're definitely known as a seafood mecca. Being so close to the sea, we have a big seafood industry. So, getting an amazing seafood buffet or seafood dinner here is very, very easy. And, we go to...
And affordable.
Oh, so affordable. I mean, for, anywhere from $60 to $100, even cheaper if you just go to the very local restaurants. you can go get the most amazing different types and variety of seafood. Of course, you have all your standards like, lobster and crab and shrimp, and then various different fish that are from the region. But so many different types of other shellfish that you would probably never seen before. Very famous here for abalone, which is like those sea urchins, which are grown just off the coast and quite inexpensive and quite interesting to taste. Very unique taste and texture to them. Also famous as a seafood dish here is jellyfish salad, which you probably wouldn't have heard before, but you did mention jellyfish earlier. Not something that I particularly enjoy, but not because it's jellyfish or because jellyfish would not be traditionally what we would think of as a seafood dish. It's just, for me, it's a little bit bland, but I know my wife loves it. And what they do is they take the jellyfish and they boil them in salted water for a long time to remove any of the mucus and any of the stinging tentacles. And then what you're left with is basically just crunchy jellyfish. And then they mix it into a salad with lots of chili and onion and different fish sauce. And then they whip it up into this jellyfish salad. And it's very, very popular with the locals. So put it on your list if you like to try kind of unique.
Yeah. Is the texture a bit like calamari, like the octopus, or? It
would be crunchier. So it's soft like calamari when you touch it, but when you bite into it, it's got like a soft crunch. So it's, a little, not as soft as calamari, but definitely a unique texture, but not bad in your mouth at all. I just don't find it to be particularly savory or flavorsome. But when they mix it with herbs and vegetables and some chili, it gets quite spicy. And Vietnamese cuisine, they love texture. They love difference of texture in all of the dishes. So you've got the softness of your vegetables and your herbs with the spiciness of your chili and then the crunchiness of the jellyfish. And they love that.
And I think good to mention at this point about the food is that, you can go from the street food level, which, you might be selecting your seafood out of, small buckets on the side of the road or in the restaurant, and you're sitting in little red chairs and, you're eating the real local cuisine. And what they can whip up and do with that, and you can cook it whichever way you want, you can ask whichever way you want. And it's really, really cheap and it's really, really good. But if you want to maybe spend a special night, or you want to kind of, stay for a while and, you maybe want alcohol or other things, there's definitely, medium to high levels of dining experiences with seafood that, that you can really enjoy along the beach, from what I remember, and obviously at your hotels and restaurants. Do you have a favorite fine dining restaurant?
For seafood buffet, I like to go to the Intercontinental. And usually on a Saturday or Sunday, they have a seafood buffet. It'll set you back, I think, around $35, maybe $40. And it's all you can eat seafood buffet with barbecued seafood, all the trimmings of a regular buffet, with a bottle of wine and I think a half a lobster as well. So if I want to really treat myself, we go out and have that. Compared to your prices back home, there's no comparison. And it's all the freshest seafood just caught that day.
All right, you've won me already.
There's another restaurant I love to go to called the Grill Garden, and it's not street food and it's not fine dining like the Intercom, but it's one of my favorites because it's a tabletop barbecue restaurant. So you come in and you sit on the table, and then they insert this little small charcoal circular barbecue and then put a grill on top. And then along the side of the restaurant, they have all of the setups where you can just basically gorge yourself on all this beautiful seafood and different types of local meat. And then you cook it at the table. So you go get all your food, you bring it over to the table, and then you pop it onto the grill and cook it to your liking. So you can sit there all night long trying from just regular seafood and shellfish to exotic meats like frogs and different types of beef and pork, even crocodile, I believe they have as well, and then lots and lots of shellfish. And you can just cook it up on your table with a few beers. It's very, very interesting. Whenever my friends and relatives have come over to visit, it's always been their favorite place to go to.
Well, we definitely have to I bet it's got a Facebook page or something similar, so we'll have to put the link in for that.
Sure, yeah, I'll find you the link and send it to you. And then I guess quickly, just some other native dishes to the region that Nha Trang would be famous for would be bun ka, which is a seafood noodle soup that locals love to have for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So it's got vermicelli noodles with a beautiful seafood soup and then seafood in on top. You also have banseo, which are crispy, savory pancakes cooked up on the street and filled with spring onions, with shrimp, with pork, and lots of different toppings. And then it's dipped in this beautiful dipping sauce of fish sauce. It's kind of a sweet dipping sauce that's just really, really beautiful.
How they get that pancake so crisp and crunchy, and yet with all those bits inside of it, and then you add the bits of salad and stuff. Oh, it's to die for, absolutely die for.
It's definitely one of my favorite dishes. I think the secret to getting it crispy is they use rice flour rather than
I've
bread
been
flour.
told.
Yeah, so definitely one of my favorites and something that people should try. You'll get it in any restaurant, in any of the hotels as well. There's also nem nung. Nem nung is traditional rice paper rolls. And inside of those rolls, you put in lots of beautiful herbs and vegetables with fermented pork, but it's not particularly pungent. It's got a nice flavor. And then it's dipped into a kind of peanut style sauce, but it's very quintessential Vietnamese food where, where you kind of build your meal at the table yourself. They bring you all the ingredients and you roll up the rice papers. First, you have to put them into water to make them soft. And then you roll all the ingredients into it and dip it into all these different sauces. So it's very much Vietnamese style eating, sharing with the whole family. So definitely something that people should try.
And I really encourage everybody to try all these different things, even if you just try it, because, usually, in Western countries, you are reluctant to, because obviously each item on the menu is expensive in its own right. But you can actually afford to try several of these. And if you don't like it, or someone else likes it more than you in your group or in your family or whatever, it's not the end of the world, because it hasn't cost you an arm and a leg in the first place. So be experimental. You will be amazed at the flavors. I mean, obviously, if you've got issues as far as allergies are concerned, make sure that you mention that to them, like peanuts or chili or things like that, or you need gluten-free. You're going to have to steer away from noodles, etc. But because the vegetables are so fresh, you can often replace it. So there's many, many ways to still explore and discover Vietnamese cuisine, and I really encourage you to do so.
On that note as well, there's no problem being a vegetarian or a vegan in Vietnam or in Nha Trang particularly. I mean, just as part of Buddhist culture, many of them will have
vegetarian, yes.
Well, vegetarian full-time, or they'll have certain days of the month when they're vegetarian. So going to any restaurant, you'll have no shortage of vegetarian dishes, particularly tofu, mixed with so many beautiful vegetables and herbs. There's one restaurant that my wife loves to go to, and it's only vegetarian food, and they do beautiful mushroom hot pots with lots of beautiful vegetables. Some of them I don't even know the names of. Can we put that
in the list as well, Colm? Because I know I've got a lot of vegetarians as my listeners, so I don't want to miss them out. Yes,
yeah,
we'll add that
I'll
in.
give you a list of a couple of them, and then you can put them onto your list so people know where they are.
Are we up to number 9? We've done food, I think, and to the extent that I can't do any more because I'm starving.
What else is there? I guess for people who do like a bit of activity, Nha Trang has also become a kind of golfing region as well. So now there are 3 international golf courses, all within 30 minutes of the airport. So within 20 minutes of the city, basically. The first is on Vin Pearl, which we spoke about earlier. They have a fantastic links golf course on the island. Supposedly quite challenging. I don't play so much myself, but from my golfing friends, they tell me it's very, very challenging because it's on the island, so it's subject to the elements. There's Diamond Bay Golf Course, which has been there for quite a number of years. And then in the last few years, there is KN Links, which is a Greg Norman designed golf course. And that's beautiful looking. You can maybe put a photo of it for the listeners, but it's
yes, definitely
a beautiful windswept links golf course. One of the very few proper links golf courses in Vietnam, I believe, and designed by a fellow Australian, the Shark, Mr. Norman.
Well, Greg Norman used to be the ambassador for Vietnamese golf courses and golfing in Vietnam up until, I think, maybe a year or so before COVID. I don't know whether he was very active in promoting golf in Vietnam, I remember. For golf.
Definitely. And golf is, because Vietnam has a very quickly rising middle class, golf has become a very popular sport, and there's some incredible courses around the country. But I think Nha Trang is good in that you have 3 beautiful courses all within 20 minutes of each other. And another one coming online as well, the other side of the airport, I think in October. I can't remember the name of it. But if you're a golf enthusiast, you can fly into Nha Trang and have 3 or 4 days of amazing golf, all within 20 minutes of you on very, very different golf courses. And the rates would be, I'm sure, very reasonable in comparison to what you'll pay back home.
Definitely.
And they're not, shall we say, Mickey Mouse courses. They're just supposedly very challenging courses. So they'd suit all levels of golfer. So I know it's becoming very popular for people to book a kind of 4 or 5 day package where they can get a couple of days golf in. The guys can go play golf. The ladies can go for a spa treatment or visit the mud baths or just hit the beach for a couple of days. So it's, I guess, fun for all the family.
Yeah, great combination. We're going to go to a short message and then we'll be back to the show. What About Vietnam is really now changing pace. And it's changing pace because now you can visit Vietnam. And I'm really delighted to finally be able to bring to you some fabulous offers to help you make your stay just that more special. And this one's going to fall definitely into the indulgence bucket. And while I'm aware that there is never just one flavour, I'm really hoping this one bounces out for you. And I want to speak about this one because it relates to a 2-night stay in Nha Trang. It involves a beautifully designed resort, and that is the resort of Movenpick at Cam Ranh, the Movenpick Cam Ranh Resort. So not only in this offer will you get the choice with restaurants, poolside and beach lounging, and food to relish the most sophisticated palates, your offer comes complete with a couple of extra special things that I wanted to add in to make it just that little bit unique for you. It includes a welcome romantic beach dinner for 2 and a full hour massage treatment. And let me tell you, they are extra special. The sunsets are to die for. So I can just imagine you there after a wonderful massage, enjoying a long, cool drink over some delicious food. It all comes together, all the detail on the website whataboutvietnam.com. Have a look for the offers page. It is a 2-night stay, so a great getaway or an inclusion in your major trip. All the price details are available on the offers page at What About Vietnam. So ask me some questions, send me an email. I'm happy to help and guide you through this if you want to add some extras or some additions to your trip. Now, these offers are going to feature in all our shows from now on, and I hope you enjoy them and love to get your feedback. But for now, let's get back to the show and let's continue our chat with Colm.
And then close to the airport where the golf courses are, has a kind of second area called Cam Ranh. And Cam Ranh is the name of the airport that you fly into. And it's the area just outside of Nha Trang. But in that region over the last 5 years, a huge amount of resorts have sprung up along Long Beach, which we spoke about earlier, which is a beautiful beach. So a lot of people like to go there just for a tropical beach getaway, if you will, where you can have 3, 4, 5 days just on the beach. And you've got a lot of different resorts there from your international standard, from Marriott and a lot of independent resorts. Some of them are very, very beautiful. And you can just have 3 days doing nothing, with the waves lapping up on the beach. All your food and entertainment and activities are taken care of in the resort. And then a lot of people like to take just a 1-day trip then to go into Nha Trang, check out the city, buy some souvenirs, see some of the sights there. So
I kind of look at it as like Nusa Dua is to, Bali and the main areas of Bali. It's kind of a bit like that, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. It's just a getaway place for where you want to do nothing but relax.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a bit more lively or you've maybe got kids and you want to get out and do things and see the cities, then you'd go into Nha Trang.
Can you speak to a little bit about the variety of accommodation available?
Yeah. I mean, even before COVID came, there was an oversupply of accommodation. So too many hotel rooms for the quantity of tourists that were coming in. So I think people are spoiled for choice now. So when you have the airport, you have that strip from the airport coming into the city, which probably has 15.
Just come run, yeah.
Just come around, probably 15 and more on the way. Beautiful 5-star resorts and hotels, from some locally owned ones to international ones, with all the top facilities and activities. In Nha Trang City, then you have from 5-star all the way down to 4, 3-star. You have homestays, you have some backpacker hostels. And then on the islands, you have lots of beautiful resorts as well. So you've got Vinpearl, which we mentioned. And then there is Ninh Van Bay, which is the peninsula just across from Nha Trang, which has the very famous Six Senses Resort, which has been very, very famous for many years as one of the best resorts in Vietnam. So if you're looking for something truly luxurious, I think they almost call it a 6-star resort. You'd go to somewhere like Six Senses. And some of the other islands have, on Ninh Van Bay, have their own amazing resorts as well. So you've got family friendly, you've got kind of couple orientated resorts, vibrant city resorts, which are right on the beach in the center of the city, like the Intercontinental or the Sheraton or the Novotel. Definitely spoiled for choice. And because of COVID, obviously, the rates in hotels and resorts these days are remarkable. You can stay at a top 5-star resort here for $60, $70 a night. And some of the other ones even cheaper. So it's definitely great value for money at the moment.
Can I put you on the spot and ask for any of your favorites?
My favorites in the city, I'd recommend Intercontinental, and the Sheraton. And in terms of resorts and hotels, I like Movenpick, which is close to the airport. The Annam is a fantastic resort, which is...
How do I spell that one?
ANAM.
ANAM, okay.
And that's
there is one called Amiana, isn't it? I've seen some really beautiful weddings done there.
There is, yeah. Amiana. There's a lot of resorts beginning with AN or AM. So many that I've lost track. But there is Amiana, which is beautiful swimming pools and villas. I'd recommend it for people who like to swim. There's the Annam. There's Alma Resort, which is fantastic for kids because it's all centered around kids' activities and fun for the family. Mia Resort, which is very small boutique resort, but very popular with couples, honeymooners, people who just want to get to a very small, very service-orientated resort. Very, very beautiful. And then, in the city, there's Intercon Sheraton, a new hotel called Potique, which is fantastically designed, just a very unique interior and decorations that they've used.
Starting with P?
Yeah, Potique. It's like boutique, but it's spelled P-O.
Okay.
Potiquue. Just very, very nice decor inside.
So these are all 4.5, 5-star. What about in that 3-star range?
In the 3-star.
So for your budget traveller that wants to just come and do some diving, who wants to sort of get the beach scene, who, maybe might want to spend an extended time, so they want something a little bit more affordable.
Ibis Styles, which is an Accor property, Ibis, IBIS, which would be 3-star prices, but definitely 4 stars, quality rooms and service.
Yeah.
The Havana Hotel, another one. It's on the main strip, Havana. There's so many. But I think the key is value for money people are going to get when they come here. So I'd recommend paying a few dollars extra for the 4 or 5
I agree, totally. And I think that's the lovely gift that Vietnam keeps giving is value for money. across the board. Even before COVID, it was still giving good value for money. I think in Southeast Asia, it's really up there. Is there anything you want to wrap up? I've definitely got 11 reasons to go to Nha Trang, so I can turn this from 10 to 11 easily.
Pretty safe city. There's nothing. There's no real tourist traps, I would say, that you fall into, as long as book things from
Common
a hotel.
sense prevails. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm working on the
Definitely
theory that most people listening have got common sense.
for sure.
Thank you so much, Colm, for coming on. I'm kind of amazed at how much you know, but I guess in 12 years, that's what happens. You kind of accrue all this knowledge and it's stored in your head. And, I'm glad we were able to, extract it from you today and share it with everybody. So thanks so much for coming on.
You're very welcome, Kerry. And I hope your listeners find some interesting nuggets in there for them. And if they come to Nha Trang, that they have an enjoyable trip.
I'm sure. And I'll make sure for everyone, for the places that Colm has mentioned, I'll make sure I'll put as many links as I can. There is always a transcript available from each show. So if you prefer to be a reader and you want to just read through the transcript, that's easily done. You can just print that off. Anyway, Colm, I look forward to seeing you in Nha Trang, actually.
Yeah, you're long overdue a visit, huh?
I am. Okay, thanks, Colm.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?